Are we ready for the show?
I don't know. It seems like, I hope so. Lord.
Pardon me. I'll put this on the recording now before I even do the intro and we get into it. Because you and I, in the last 24 hours, we spent 2 hours total now. We spent 90 minutes yesterday, right? Oh, more than that. We spent like a half hour last night and then another half hour this morning. It's like 2.5 hours with technical difficulties.
And then on Monday.
Yeah.
Don't forget.
It's been a lot. So whatever's going on with StreamYard, we're getting echoes and clicking and popping. So now I'm using Google Meet and we're trying this whole new thing. Flying by the seat of our pants here.
Guinea pig.
All right. Are we ready to start?
Sure.
All right. Okay. Here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MT4MH Studios, where we spread our love and we share our ketogenic lifestyles. This is the Find Your Keto Show, and I'm your host, Stephen T., ready to guide you on your low-carb journey. Today, we have an incredible guest, Natalie, whose journey of health and transformation is nothing short of inspiring. Like my last guest, Brett Smith, Natalie and I met as volunteers for the metabolic revolution. Natalie spent years battling chronic intestinal issues, joint pain, fatigue, and the struggles that come with aging and menopause until she discovered a life-changing dietary approach. From misconceptions about ketosis to taking control of her health through the NSNG, or no sugars, no grains diet, which is the creation of one of my previous guests, Vinnie Tortorich, Natalie's story is a powerful testament to the impact of diet on both physical and mental well-being. Join us today as we explore her journey from debilitating symptoms to living life to the fullest at the young age of 56. Natalie, how are you today?
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for having me. I'm super honored to be on your show. It's going to be so much fun.
It's great to have you here. It's been a lot of effort that we've put into this to get to this point. I wasn't sure if we were ever going to be able to start the recording.
It better be your best show yet.
It feels like it. It feels like it's going to be. I know you've put a lot of preparation into your story and your answers to my questions, so I appreciate that. Let's start out by giving us a quick rundown of your story, and then we can proceed with questions that'll dive a little bit deeper into the details.
Okay. Well, I was a flight attendant for 16 years. And during COVID, I had an opportunity to start working from home. So I took that opportunity and I retired. And because I was at home, I had a regular schedule. I was able to start paying more attention to how I felt. And during the time I got to start working from home, I started paying more attention to how I felt. During the 16 years of being a flight attendant, I was always exhausted, always a hungover feeling, sleep, too much alcohol, or both. I knew I needed to lose weight. I had started struggling with severe joint pain. The kind of pain where you almost couldn't even grip something. It was severe. I had vertigo. I had major hot flashes, constipation, hypoglycemia, and eventually I started suffering from debilitating fatigue. I spent much of my life suffering from chronic intestinal issues and allergies. I had terrible skin. And in my 30s, I was told I had hypoglycemia. I went to the doctor many times to see if I could find some relief or get some help. And I was eventually just told that, it's part of aging, part of menopause. And here's a pill for the itchy skin. Here's a pill for your joint pain, etc. Most of the time, I never filled the prescriptions because I just knew there were side effects and I didn't care for that. A year or two before I found this way of eating, I was trying so hard to lose weight. I tried a few diets, like I tried the smoothie diet, a 4-day water cleanse, Weight Watchers, And then I spent, I don't know, 6 to 8 months on a 1,200 calorie diet, and I was freaking starving. And during that time, I think maybe I lost 10 pounds. And at the end of 2022, I was like, well, let me just start lifting weights. I feel like if I could just gain some muscle, then maybe I will lose some actual fat. And in 3 months, I gained 12 pounds. And when I tell you I was in tears, I was in tears. So I was thinking, what the hell do I have to do here? What does a gal have to do to lose some weight? So during that time, I went ahead and had some routine blood work done. And when I saw the results, I was like, my eyes bugged out. Everything was high or low. It just wasn't good. And so I knew I was on the path to bad health. And I didn't want to be in a wheelchair by the time I was 60. I just didn't. I wanted to be active, but my body just wasn't there. And I knew I needed to do something about it. The doctor, of course, wanted to put me on statins. I politely declined. At that time, I didn't know anything about statins, but I knew I wasn't going to be one of those people on 12 pills by the time I was 55. I just wasn't going to be that person. I was feeling really deflated and defeated. And at this time, I just didn't know what to do. And that's a little bit of my story. And then, and then I found, by happenstance, I just happened upon a podcast that talked about health. And this led me to my journey.
Is that where you discovered Vinnie Tortorich and the NSNG diet?
It is where I discovered Vinnie Tortorich. I was kind of bored at work, if you will. Like I was thinking, what can I do when I have downtime at work? So I decided to look into podcasts. And when I did that, I remembered that I used to love Mike Rose the way I heard it. So I went ahead and went to that podcast, and I saw a title that said, "Where's the Beef?" And so I went there and I thought, oh, that's a cute title. So let me look at that. And it just happened to be Vinnie Tortorich. And I was a little disappointed because I didn't know Mike Rowe had guests. That's how long ago it had been since I had listened to his podcast. And I was annoyed. I was like, guests, this isn't what I'm here for. But I continued to let it play. And to my surprise, I was sucked in. I loved everything that he was talking about. It made sense. He talked about what we were eating, what we shouldn't be eating, why we feel the way we feel. And during that hour and 28 minutes that he was on Mike Rowe's show, I literally felt like we were on the phone and he was talking to me. And it was the day I needed it. Gets me choked up because I really feel like when you ask for something, it comes. When you pray for something, it comes. You just have to be ready to listen. And that day I was ready to listen. And I feel like I owe Vinnie. He would never, of course, think that. He's just there to help people. But that day, he was the answer to my prayers. However you want to think about that. But that's the way I feel about it, because my ears and my eyes and my heart was open. And so it came to me. And then after I listened to him that day, I knew I had to try it, because I thought, well, what do I have to lose? I've done all these other cuckoo diets, right? And to me, at that point, I just wanted to lose weight. I didn't know that all the other things were going to come with it, right? I was just an old gal not wanting to be obese. And so I was desperate, and I thought, well, let me just do it. And the best part about the whole thing was, seriously, I had nothing to lose but $10, because he asks you to print out a PDF that gives you the do's and the don'ts of what to eat. And it's $10. And I have spent so much money on pills and diets and, vitamins. And I thought, what's $10? I'm going to do this. And so that's where my journey started. And this is where I am.
That's great. I just want to start off by saying that I'm so very happy for you that you found Vinnie and you found that podcast, and it came to you at a time that you really needed it and you were hoping to listen to it. And what you describe about, you felt like he was talking to you. I think that's just a way that he has about himself. I remember when I was at the rally in DC and I was talking to him, it was so surreal. I felt like I was in a dream, but I described this during my interview with him, was that it didn't feel like I was talking to a celebrity or a filmmaker or a guy with one of these big podcasts. It just felt like I was talking to a friend of mine. And then when I had him on the show again, it was just like I was talking to a friend of mine. The whole time it felt surreal. I felt like I was in a dream and I was waiting for somebody to pinch me. But he's just got that way about him that he's very conversational. And I also like about your story that it's very, very common for a lot of people like myself that we changed our diet to lose weight and we didn't expect all the things that were going to come along with it. And you get so many physical and mental benefits. Very, very common story. Let's talk about, I want to hear about what your diet was like before you started NSNG and then what kind of changes you made to initiate the program.
Shortly before I started NSNG, I was following to the T, like a Bible, a 1,200 calorie diet. But if we go back further, I was just eating what people eat, the standard American diet. I thought, well, let me try oatmeal for breakfast and with some bananas. Let me have, I don't know, some kind of chicken salad with pretend mayonnaise on it during lunch. And it just grosses me out to think about it now. That's not even food. And so, I ate the standard American diet and I thought calories were the answer. And it just wasn't. So for dinner, I remember 6 to 8 months prior, I would have, I think I would have like the overnight oats for breakfast. And then I would have, like I said, some fake salad in the afternoon. And then for dinner, we'd have this tiny little 4-ounce chicken breast with some vegetables and maybe a half a potato or something like that, right? And I was just so hungry that I would end up eating popcorn, for a snack afterwards, because I needed some more food. I was actually starving myself to death, and that's what my diet was like. That was a normal diet. As a flight attendant, I would try to bring my food and it would just end up rotting. And so you're always at the restaurant, grabbing a burger. And, of course, you have to have a glass of wine or a beer, with that. So I wasn't doing myself any favors unknowingly.
It's funny that you mentioned the oatmeal thing, because going back long before I discovered this diet, when I was still a vegetarian, I would have oatmeal every day for breakfast. And it's still a fond memory because I loved it. I would put coconut oil in it and almond milk and it would make it creamy. And then I would add hemp seeds, chia seeds, and there was something else, maybe another seed. And I thought like I'm having all these superfoods. And I strongly believed that hemp was like the perfect food for humans and it had the perfect omega ratio. And I had these big bowls of oatmeal for breakfast every day. I did this for a long time and I couldn't understand why my stomach was getting bigger. I was lifting heavy weights at the time and I was muscular and I was in good shape, but my gut or my spare tire just got bigger and bigger. And that was my first experience with tracking my food. It was when I first found my Fitness Pal. I don't remember how it happened, but when I started tracking that stuff and seeing how many carbs I was having to start my day, I was like, oh my goodness. And that was my initial introduction to eating a lower carb diet and changing at least my breakfast I changed, but I do have some fond memories of those oatmeals because it was delicious and it filled me up so well.
And I have the opposite feeling about oatmeal. I've never liked oatmeal, but I would choke it down because I thought it was the best. Like, you're getting so much nutrition, and I wasn't full from oatmeal. It did the opposite to me. Now that I think back, I wanted a darn burger afterwards. I was starving. And so, yeah, I don't have fond memories of oatmeal. I'm kind of glad that's out of my pantry.
Did you add anything to it, or were you just having, like you said, the overnight oats? Was it just the oats?
Well, I would put the almond milk and maybe some berries or like a fruit, bananas. I love bananas. Why do I like bananas? Because they're sweet. So that's what I would add: bananas and maybe sometimes some raisins or even granola, right? I would try to mix it up, thinking if I just add the right thing, then I'll love this oatmeal. And I just never really did. So it wasn't my favorite breakfast.
See, and I think my oatmeal was much different than yours because I was adding a lot of coconut oil. I remember having a couple of tablespoons of coconut oil, plus hemp seeds are fatty, chia seeds are fatty. And then I still can't remember the other thing. It may have just been hemp protein. I used to make shakes too that I would put hemp protein in, but even though it was high carb, there was a lot of fat in there. So I think that was helping probably just fill me up.
And that probably was I didn't put any fat. I might have put butter in there, but not enough probably. And I would feel so bloated afterwards, like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? And so I never enjoyed it, but it was healthy. So I was doing the right thing.
So they say it's heart healthy whole grains, even though there's no science to back that up. It's just paid for by the American Heart Association, put the label on the box.
Yikes.
All right, let's talk about your initial transition to removing sugar and grains and processed foods from your diet. What was that like?
Well, like I had said, I downloaded Vinnie's PDF, and I read it like it was my Bible. And I went over and over. And so I just started I sort of dove in. But then I also didn't really know what I was diving into, if that makes sense. Like, I was like, oh, I can't eat this and I can't eat that. So immediately, I just started having like eggs and bacon for breakfast, or later in the day. I've never really loved breakfast. So I would just have some eggs and bacon, and then I would have some like lunch meat, roll it up in some cheese, and then I would have vegetables, but I would make sure that it was broccoli or Brussels sprouts, something to that effect. I stayed away from the carrots and the rootier vegetables. Excuse me. And so I was really gung ho. But then I would be like, well, if I just have a little popcorn this weekend, I'll probably be fine. And then I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And then it just happened to be where I had a visit to I was going to visit my grandkids. And so I was like, I don't want to be high maintenance when I'm with the kids. I just want to be normal. And so when I went to visit them for, I guess, about 4 or 5 days, I ate like we normally eat. We had chicken, like ranch chicken. We had some eggs and a little bacon, but we went and had cupcakes, and we just did the normal, I would call normal standard American diet. And when I got home from that, I was so constipated that I thought I was going to have to go to the hospital. Like, I didn't know what to do about it. It was excruciating. And so from that moment on, I knew what I was doing. What I had started doing was what I needed to do. And I needed to stop messing around. And it was time to get serious about it. So it just happened to be that my parents were going out of town. They live a couple hours from me, and I needed to help them. I watched their home while they were gone. They were going to be gone for the whole month. And I was like, this is it. I'm going to be alone. There's no excuses. I don't have anyone around me eating some sweet treats and, eating popcorn or whatever the case might be. This was on me, and it was time to get serious. And that's what I did. I brought my little PDF with me, and from that moment that I stepped into my parents' house, I ate everything only off that PDF, and I did not waver. It was very hard because I think, as some of us, most of us here know, that sugar is no joke. It was a detox, and I had to I had to be very conscious of what was going on. And instead of just grabbing a caramel or something and throwing it in my mouth, I learned from the community that, take a swipe of butter, use some Redmond salt, drink some pickle juice with no sugar. So I did everything. I made burnt butter bites. I kept them in the freezer. And it was sort of like a little habit. Every night I would take one or two, I don't know, like closer to bed probably, and eat them. And it took it away. It took that addiction, that, withdrawal that I was going through. And I made it through the 30 days, and I knew from that moment on that I was onto something, because in 4 days, my stomach wasn't like, oh my God, what did I just eat? Why am I so bloated? Why don't I feel good? My joint pain just in a week had subsided. It wasn't gone, but I didn't feel like wasn't as tight as it used to be. There, little teeny things were already happening just in a week. And I was like, this is it. And I have never looked back. I have literally been faithful to this way of eating since.
And this is what I love about you. I love your desire, your dedication, and your effort towards it. Not everybody is able to do it as easily. And I love the commitment you put into it. And it speaks to your character and your personality. And you have proven that to me in the amount of preparation that you put into the show as we were going back and forth with our questions I was going to ask and working on your script. And I really love that about you. I find it interesting that in the beginning there, you went back to a standard American diet and you got constipated. And typically the standard American diet is very high in fiber. And we're taught that you need lots of fiber in your diet so that you can poop. And most people don't understand the science behind that, is that your body cannot digest fiber, so it needs to poop it out. And you'll hear a very common thread from people. I know for myself, when I was a vegetarian and a vegan, I had the worst digestive issues of my life. And as I transitioned and started to eat more meat and less plants, that improved. And then when I got to all meat, it got even better. And then when I got to high fat and meat only, it got better. And yet again, in the last 6 to 8 months that I've gone fully raw, I know this can be alarming for some people, but yes, I eat my meat and my fat raw. My digestive system has been the best it has ever been. It's been like the pinnacle. So we're taught that we need fiber, but you started cramming all this fiber and you were constipated. That's kind of like the backwards, it's opposite of what we're told, right?
It definitely is. And I will just tell you that from a young age, I've always had stomach problems. I was either constipated or I was going all the time. It was like poop talk all the time for Natalie, because it was a constant issue in my life. And so, and I would even, this is how bad I feel like my intestinal tract was at some point. It started in my 30s. I would get what I thought was food poisoning. And it would happen about 2 to 3 times a year. Once it started happening in my 30s, I would, like out of nowhere, I would feel like I had food poisoning. I would have to run to the bathroom. I didn't know if I was going to have disaster pants. I didn't know if I needed a bucket. I didn't know what to do. And it would hit hard and fast. And I would also get like, it's so weird. I would get like paralysis. My arms would go, I couldn't move them, and I couldn't move my legs while I'm on the toilet. And it was so scary because I wouldn't know what to do. And that during the paralysis moment, my whole body would break out into this sweat like I just came out of a sauna. And then I would immediately go to freezing. And it would only last a few moments, but enough to where I didn't know what was going on. Was I going to fall off and have a heart attack? I didn't know what was happening. And so I would ask the doctor, what's going on? This has happened to me. And they would just say, wow, it sounds like food poisoning. So it appears that I had food poisoning a lot, 2 to 3 times a year. And so since I have started this way of eating, I have never had something close to that happen to me.
I'm glad you said that. I was just going to ask that. So how long has it been since you've been committed to NSNG?
In April, it'll be 2 years. So it's I'm just under 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And I know that I still have so many things that are going to start changing more and more. But the things that have already changed in this short amount of time, guys, I mean, seriously, in this short amount of time, I do not have any more joint pain. I go to the restroom like a normal human should go to the restroom. I'm never, bowled over in cramps and stomach ache. And it's amazing. I don't have hot flashes anymore. I don't, there's so many things. I have such a list. I don't shake when I get hungry, like the hangry, which I was told was hypoglycemia that I had. I don't have that feeling anymore. I've never been hungry since I started this. I've had cravings, right? But I've never been hungry. And it's just astonishing to me, the amount of change that I have felt in such a little time. I'm excited to see what happens to me in 5 years.
It will get better and better. That's been the case for me and lots of other people. I can relate to the hypoglycemia thing because for all the years that I was vegetarian and vegan and eating a very, very high sugar, high carb diet, I would have that happen. I've always been very, very active, and I can recall times where I'd be out in the yard doing yard work, mowing the grass or something, and then all of a sudden that would hit me, and I would feel like I was going to die and pass out, and I would break out in a cold sweat, and I'd have to come in the house, and I'd be eating like handfuls of chocolate and granola and drinking like fruit juice and whatever I could, and it would take like a good 15 to 20 minutes before I would bounce back, and that happened to me a lot. That has not happened to me once since I removed carbs from my diet.
It's it's crazy. I was told to make sure I always had a little Snickers bar in my purse because it could be really dangerous if I got too low blood sugar. And I'm all, okay, you need me to eat a Snickers. I'm not mad about that.
Snickers satisfies, right?
What a dumb thing to tell people.
You just gave us a great list of all of the physical transformations you've had. But, my passion is for mental health, and I love hearing from people who have never suffered from mental health or been diagnosed with any kind of mental conditions. I'd like to hear about how your diet change has affected your mental health as well.
And thank you for asking that question, honestly, because this was one of the things I didn't expect. I had no idea about the mental clarity that comes with eating real food. I've noticed that my emotions have become calmer. I just feel like I can hear what people are saying now rather than reacting immediately to what someone's saying, and mostly in anger. I feel like I would always be like that, right? Immediately. And now I take a moment and I feel like my emotions are just a little bit calmer. I feel like I've always had a very high energy brain, meaning there's always something going on. I'm always thinking about something. How can I make it better? What should I do about this? Or, and it has always led to me. It's always led to overthinking everything. And my emotions contribute to that. And I just no longer feel like my emotions are on a hamster wheel. I've heard and listened to people by happenstance, people like you. And I've been fortunate enough to hear people like Dr. Eid, and I'm new to Dr. Chris Palmer. And I thought, hey, that's happening to me too. I don't feel so, I don't know. I feel calmer. The anxiety in my brain has slowed down. I would get such bad anxiety, and not the kind that makes you shake and, things like that. Not like that, but in my brain, I would feel so overwhelmed with thoughts that it would lead to depression. And I would just feel what I would explain as very low, until all those emotions could stop spinning around in my brain. And I was depressed a lot. I didn't realize, I feel like I didn't know how depressed I was. I don't feel that way anymore. And I still am emotional. I don't want people to think that you become non-emotional. I still have emotions and I still feel those things, but they're not so intense, right? They feel like it's just normal. And and I can think through it again. Like, I'm not quick to react. I'm not quick to anger. I still have a couple of bad days where, maybe my emotions get the best of me, but it is not an everyday thing. I kind of wake up now and I'm like, it's a beautiful day. And I wake up in a good mood, and it's clean energy. And I'm just so super thankful for that. I had the worst brain fog, and I was thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get through work? I can't even think two thoughts. I was just like, oh goodness, just so exhausted up in there. A lot of cobwebs. And this is all still new to me, and I'm trying to understand how to be more in touch with my emotions. I'm learning those things through some of the doctors, that I've been so very blessed to be introduced to through podcasts and whatnot, listening to you, Mia, Hannah, Robin Dobbins, that just, you guys have no idea how much you've touched me. And I'm honored that I'm in the space with you. And I'm honored that I get to know that about myself so that I can be a better person for the people that love me. And it's just amazing. You just want everyone to, once you feel this way, people just roll their eyes and they think, whatever. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Listen to me. It's the best. But until you're ready, you're just not gonna, want to be there. And honestly, some folks, they're like, what do you mean mental clarity? What does that mean? To me, it's just that, to me, this is the biggest gift, an unexpected gift that was a surprise. And if I had to have all the other things, I would take this one as the one that I would want to take with me, because it helps me sleep better at night. It helps me wake up better in the morning. I feel like, and I hope it makes me just a better person, because I always thought I was just super high strung because it was in my DNA. I didn't know that you could do something to the old brain up there, just by eating real food. People, just by eating real food. It's insane.
What an amazing and powerful message that you're putting out there. Because you weren't perfect to begin with, but you weren't so bad that you needed to seek treatment and get a diagnosis and see a psychiatrist like some of us do. And I really thank you for mentioning me and some of my other guests that I've had on for our stories influencing you, because that's the reason that we're out here doing what we're doing, trying to spread the message of hope and try to impact other people. I love that. I would call you a normal person, where, I'm not normal. I was diagnosed with bipolar. So as a normal person, you change your diet to lose weight, but you're experiencing all these, extreme mental benefits. And it's a message that I try to spread to people like my parents and other family members and friends, that you make a simple change to your diet. You don't realize how bad you are. If you could rate your mood on a scale of 1 to 10, you may think that you're at an 8, but if you change your diet a little bit, your 8 is probably going to become a 4 or maybe a 5. You don't realize how bad things are until you can clean it up and fix it up. And I'm really just so happy for you that you've had a chance to experience this. And I'm grateful that you're on the show here to help spread the message, because a lot of my guests have been diagnosed with mental illness, but not all of them. I had Tina on, I had Holly on. They both went carnivore and they didn't really have any kind of diagnosis prior, but they were just like their stories, just like yours. They experienced really great mental benefits from it. And I think it's a powerful message to send out there to the other normal people out there, that changing their diet, you can change your body, your physical health, and you change your mind and your mental health as well.
I agree with you 100%. There's so many benefits that you don't even know until you clean it up.
I want to hear about what your diet is like today and how it's changed from your initial NSNG.
Well, as I told you in the beginning, I followed Vinnie's PDF to a T. My typical meals with NSNG, I would have some eggs and bacon, or maybe some leftover meat for breakfast and some eggs, it cooked in butter or coconut oil. And then at night, and I might have had something for lunch, maybe, like I said, some lunch meat and cheese. And then as I started learning more and more, well, of course, for dinner, I would have a steak and a little bit of vegetables. And then as I started kind of, I don't know, playing around with how I was eating, I eventually just sort of thought, I don't feel like I need these vegetables. Let me just try it. And I was maybe 6 months in, let's just say. And I just kind of cut out the vegetables, and mostly because they were going bad in my refrigerator before I could finish them. And I also always felt like they smelled like chemicals for some reason. I don't know why I started noticing that, but to me, I just thought, ew, I don't know about this. So I just kind of stopped eating them, and I thought, let me just see if I miss them. And I didn't. So then I started listening to Dr. Ken Berry, and he was talking about the, proper human diet, and his way of eating is beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. And I thought, well, let me just try that. So I started eating beef, butter, bacon, and eggs mostly. I still would have coconut oil. I always would put coconut oil in my coffee or whatever. If I didn't have butter or something, I would use that to cook in. And I still eat, every once in a while, I'll have some almond butter with coconut oil. And I drink coffee. So, but I started really kind of following the beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. I also eat a lot of pork belly because it's the way I can get fat in. And it doesn't seem to mess with my stomach. So sometimes when you're new to the high fat, you can be a little, sensitive. And I can eat pork belly with no problem. So that's where I'm at today. It's been over a year, and I don't think I've had a vegetable. I'm not against them. If somebody has a really beautiful, vegetable that they've cooked up, I'll eat. It's not a problem. I'm not, I don't think it's, going to hurt me or anything. I just don't feel better with them, and I don't feel better, or I don't feel worse without them. So I don't know that they were doing me any good. So I just kind of stopped eating them, and I really try to stay away from anything that might inflame me. I'm very cautious about that. I won't eat peanut butter and things like that. I just won't. And I also feel like it's important to say that just because you want to change your way of eating, it doesn't mean that you have to be a carnivore. It doesn't mean that you can't have a vegetable. It doesn't mean you can never have a salad again, right? I love a nice crunchy salad, but really what I liked was the salad dressing, because, the lettuce was the vehicle to the dressing getting in there. And so you can have all of those things. It's if that's what you choose, if that's what your body is okay with. But once you clean up your diet, your body and your mind work as one. And I don't think that people understand that, because we are also conditioned to just eat, right? I think I've said it before. You just sit and eat a bag of Doritos, or you're just throwing popcorn in your mouth, and it's really mindless eating. We all do it. We've all done it. But once you are in tune with your body, your mind knows what you need. I can't explain it until you kind of feel it. And you will want to experiment with things that make you feel better, or, you know what, that didn't make me feel so great. And so I feel like that's important for people to understand. If you're trying to change your way of eating, you don't have to be so extreme. I don't think that this is extreme. I think this is the easiest thing I've ever done. But some folks might think it's extreme. But until you can clean yourself up, you don't know what your body needs and doesn't need.
If someone's coming from a standard American diet and you say beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, that does sound very extreme. And now if you said high fat beef only, and I need to put an R in there for the raw, it should be high fat raw beef only. Imagine how extreme people think I am. You know, they think I'm crazy. But this has been 5.5 years for me, and the reason that I try to stick to a beef only is because I react to all those other things. And so I have 2 rules when it comes to a food. If you enjoy it and it doesn't bother you, then go ahead and eat it. But you know, you mentioned things like broccoli. Like I've eaten so much broccoli in my life as a 20-year vegetarian that I despise broccoli, but it would also destroy my gut. I just would have terrible gas. So there's no way I'm going to eat it. And then there's things like cocoa butter, which I love cocoa butter, and it's 100% fat. So it fits my high fat diet, but it will give me skin issues, slight digestive issues. And then if I eat it too much for too many days, it will tank my mood a little bit too. I will get irritable and angry from it. So that's how I've gotten to the beef only thing, through the self-experimentation that you've described. And once you reach a level where you feel perfection, and then you add something in that takes away from that, it's like, well, why bother? You know, like you mentioned nut butters. I love nut butters, but I can't regulate them and they bother me. I can't do just a tablespoon of almond butter. I can do it for a day or two, but then I'm sitting down with the whole jar, and then I'm driving to the store to get another jar. And then I'm eating Snickers and Reese's and ice cream. And then I'm an irritable, angry, and depressed mess. So that's why I don't touch those things. You mentioned almond butter and coconut oil. Is that a thing you're doing on your own, or is that a product you're getting?
That is Vinnie's Ultra Fat.
I thought. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. It was, I have that. I always have that in my refrigerator in case of emergencies. I think I still have that flight attendant brain where it's like, what if I get stuck on a desert island? I'm going to need something. So I always have that in my arsenal of just in cases. And I when I travel, you know, if I'm going on a long plane ride, or if I know I can't have food maybe that day, or the food that they're going to be serving isn't what I want, I'll just grab a couple of ultra fats and keep them in my purse. And, you know, that's really all I need to get me through the day even. So I do eat those. And then sometimes if I'm out of ultra fat, which is a terrible travesty, I'll just take a thing of almond butter and mix in a little coconut oil for myself and just make it myself. But I prefer his brand. They taste really good. It's convenient. Comes in a little packet. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's delicious. He's got some of his ultra salt electrolyte in there, and he's also got vanilla. Have you ever had the coffee one?
Yes,
I never tried the coffee one.
Yes, they're very good, but all of them are very good. And I also, you know, I live off of his ultra salts too, his for electrolytes. I trust everything that he does because it's going to be pure. He's not going to put crap in there. And he's not going to steer you in the wrong direction because he's not going to sell something he wouldn't take.
Exactly. That's one of the things I love about Vinnie. When I was still doing vitamins for myself and for Samantha, I was using his Pure Vitamin Club vitamins. He had a children's vitamin. I don't know if that's still out. I used his ultra salt supplement for a long time. I don't want to take the capsule, so I would open it up and put it in water. But I've been through a journey of electrolytes. I don't do that anymore. The coffee ultra fat I've never had, because the times that I ordered it, it was for Samantha, because over the years of us trying to do a lower carb approach for her, we're trying to find these high fat snacks, and I get it and she'd kind of like it. And then, the next time she eats it, she doesn't want it. So now they're sitting here, and unfortunately, I have that a substance abuse piece to myself, and I don't have impulse control, and I don't regulate things. So I'd have a packet today, and then tomorrow I'm having two. And then the following day, I'm going to bed thinking about, oh man, I can't wait to have the ultra fat again. And then I'm eating the rest. I don't know how many comes. Is it like 12? So there's like, maybe there's 9 or 10 left. And I'm just eating them all. I ate my fat, I ate my meat, I ate them all. And now all of a sudden I'm craving all these other things. So I just avoid those things. They are delicious though. I love them.
They're so good. And with that being said, I also get Anna Vicino. I don't know if you are aware of who she is, but she is, to me, the queen of low carb cookbooks. She makes beautiful sauces, Italian sauces and spices that do not have sugar in them. And I love her. I love all of her products. But boy, I got to tell you, I cannot have a lot of her sauces because they ramp up my sugar. They do the same thing to me. I'm like, oh, well, maybe I should have maybe now and some more almond butter, or you're right. It does something. It's a trigger. I will have them, but I know myself, to me, they're very sweet. To the normal person, maybe not, because our taste buds do tend to change when you kind of, stop eating all the crap. And so you have to be aware of what triggers you and what doesn't. And you have to stay away from that stuff because it just leads down a bad path. Say no to drugs.
And what's interesting for me is what I've discovered over the years is now that I've been trying to stick to a high fat beef only, is that even if I eat too much meat at times, if I eat too much meat for too many days in a row, I still test my blood glucose. I always mess that up. My blood glucose and ketones in the morning. And when I eat more meat, my glucose is higher, my ketones are lower. And if I do that for too many days in a row, I will start not feeling as well. I will get irritable and angry, but it also induces cravings. I will initially just be craving more meat. And for me, that's items other than beef. Like, I'm like craving a rotisserie chicken. I like chicken, but it's not my favorite. I'm craving stuff from the local butcher. He's got smoked pork butts and roast beef with seasonings on it and smoked pork chops, all things that I should be avoiding because they're not optimal for me. So I start craving those things. And if I let that go on long enough, this is how I ended up eating a bunch of Halloween candy a couple of weeks ago, because I was eating a bunch of meat for a bunch of days in a row. And I had these cravings and this candy was sitting there. And so it's that easy for me to go and have candy. People think that I am absolute lunatic when I say that eating too much meat causes cravings, but that's just me and that's my path. And that's why I try to, the high fat is just as important as the beef only component in what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, that goes back to what I was talking about. Your mind and your body are in tune. So what's going to set you off. And sometimes, we just give into it. And, I like to keep in mind what Vinnie says. It's not what you eat between Halloween. I'm going to add Halloween. He probably says Thanksgiving, but between the holidays and New Year's, it's what you eat from New Year's to the holidays. But I'll be honest, I have not yet in my short term on this journey. I haven't went ahead and just enjoyed a holiday meal. I'm too afraid to go back to where I was. I'm afraid if I have that piece of pie, I'm going to eat the whole pie because, if I have that brownie with ice cream on it, I just can't do it. And that's not to say that, I haven't had, I've had a brownie in my journey with the nieces, and but I've been very cautious. The next day I wake up and I'm right back to where I need to be because there's a fear in my brain to go back to how I felt before. And I don't want to feel that way again.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm the same way. Unfortunately for me, I'm not always able to jump back on the train the next day. It's gotten easier for me over the years, and it's gotten better to where I used to fall off. And sometimes years ago, it would be weeks at a time, or it may even be a month or two at a time that I've fallen off. And then that's gotten less and less to where maybe in the past 2 years, it would be 3 days or 4 days at a time, to now where it's like, well, I had the Halloween candy, but I just had it the one day and I was able to hop back on. I fasted for a couple of days. That fasting is a big part of what I do too. So, but my main motivation, as you know, is my daughter, Samantha, and I want to be able to remain a competent father. And so if I have a piece of pumpkin pie or a sweet potato pie, which is like one of my favorite things, I can have that. I can make the choice and I can have it, but I'm going to pay for it. And then ultimately she's going to pay for it, because my most prominent symptom, the first thing that happens, is the anger and the irritability. And I might just be snapping at her. I might not be handling her well. She may ask a simple question like, Dad, can I watch whatever show? And I'm just like, nah, you can't watch that today. Like, it mean for no reason. And I'm doing my best to not impact her. If it wasn't for her, I may still be having some of those things here and there, because I wouldn't have to worry about it so much. But she is my main motivation. And that's another big component to trying to stick to a high fat beef only diet for me.
And we all need a why. And you have it. That's the perfect why.
And another big part of that is I'm out here trying to show the world what can be done when you eat at a very high fat ratio. I feel like one of the things that is missing in the keto community, even though we're already eating a low carb, high fat diet, I feel like there's not really an emphasis on a high fat diet. And that's why I started the HFBO Facebook group, which I think we're up to like 160 something members now. And there's all types of people in there trying to increase their fat. I feel like it's something that's missing. I'm trying to show the world what can be done. Like, when you go from a standard American diet to a ketogenic diet, you stop burning sugar for energy, you burn fat. People will say that it's like a switch gets flipped. And it's true. Your brain will start working differently. You feel like a different person. And I have found that when I do a high fat, very high fat version, where it's 4-to-1, or it's 90, like you see the 90-10 on my logo above my head here, 90% of my calories are coming from fat. I have this second switch that I can flip, and it's like a turbo boost. It's not as dramatic as the first switch, but it is dramatic enough that if it gets me to a 10, that being an 8 is no longer acceptable. I don't want to be an 8. I want to stay at a 10. It's a second switch that I can flip. And I feel like it's something that is missing in the keto community. And I would like to see as many people as possible try the higher fat approach, at least for 30, 60, maybe 90 days, just to see what it does for them, to see is this turbo boost just something that I discovered that only works for me, or could it work for other people as well? So that's another big component of my motivation for doing this.
I agree with you. Just by talking with you and hearing some others, I have started upping my fat. Instead of a full steak at night and maybe, some butter on the side, now I'm eating like a quarter of the steak. My plate is now mostly pork belly and a little bit of steak. And I feel satisfied. I think, I'm interested in the turbo boost, and I'm always looking to improve what I'm doing, because I do think that that's something that happens to us once we feel good. We're like, what's next? How can we feel better? This is great. Looking for that turbo boost, like you said. So, but I also think that it's important to not get anxious over that. When I started my first 6 to 8 months, I was anxious about, like, how come I'm not losing weight very fast? Why is my skin not as perfect as I want it to be? Why, right? Instead, I should have focused on, look at all the things that have happened. And now let's think about, how long did it take your body to become this unhealthy? How long has it been this unhealthy? We will never know. So let's give yourself some time, and your body's healing from the inside out. It is doing more work than you know, and losing weight is just part of the process. It will come. It is taking me 1.5 years to lose 35 pounds. I'd like to still lose a little bit more, only because I still have fat that I think I would like to get rid of, not because of the scale number. And I think that when we all start this way of eating, we're looking for that immediate everything to feel better, right? And some things will, and some things take time. it's taken my skin also a lot of time to not be as itchy, and I would break out from sweating. It was almost like I was allergic to my own sweat. I would just break out after working out. And I don't have that issue anymore, but I did give up almost all dairy. I eat some butter. I haven't had butter in several weeks. I thought maybe I could try that a little bit. But you know, I'm playing around with things. I haven't actually missed dairy, which is really weird, because I thought that was my new crack. And but I've done fine. It's kind of like, well, once I haven't had it, I haven't thought about it. I don't obsess as much over things. I guess that's part of that mental clarity part, is the obsession to things have really calmed. And but I do think that people need to understand when they change, if they do decide to start just eating one ingredient food, that's all you have to do. It might take a little while for your body to heal, but it's healing. Your body's very efficient. It's very smart, and it wants to help you. It's not trying to hurt you. So I think give it a chance.
That's another great message that you're putting out there, right? You're talking about 40 or 50 years of damaging our bodies. It's not going to happen in 30 days. You know, you change your diet, you could feel better right away. You said that you felt benefits right away when you went NSNG, but the big stuff takes a long time. And instead of looking at it in a negative light, like, why am I not getting all these changes right now? You can look at the glass half full version of that, which is like, well, if I just stick to this, you hear people saying 3 years in, 4, 5 years in. I'm 5.5 years in now. I haven't been totally consistent the whole time, but I'm 5.5 years in and I'm still experiencing benefits from it.
And I'm still learning from others. And so every time I hear someone talk, I learn something, right? And so it's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing learning, educational. If every time I hear a new doctor talk, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. I have never heard of seed oils until I started this journey. What's a seed oil? I thought you put canola oil in brownies. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. I didn't know that was a thing. And so I just am learning so much that I'm so immersed in it that I'm like, what am I going to learn today? You never know. So, and I hadn't heard of high fat beef only until I met you, and we met through the metabolic revolution. So I'm intrigued. I want to know more about it. Will I do it? We'll see. But it's at least there's an option.
And that's a large part of the reason that I started the whole thing. Part of the reason you never heard of it is because it's relatively new. I think I came up with the acronym like in April. And the initial reason I did it was because I was looking for a group that I fit into, and there just was none. There's the Lion Diet. Michaela Peterson started the Lion Diet, which is ruminant meat, salt, and water, which usually ends up being beef only for most people. So that's what I do. But I'm in these Lion groups and on Facebook and stuff, and there's no focus on fat whatsoever. Some of them are eating fatty cuts of beef, but if you were to track their food, their fat's going to be in the 60s or the 70s. I'm in the 90s. You know, some days a lot of days my fat is like 93%, 96%. It's like mostly fat. So I don't really fit in that group very well. And the other component of what I'm doing, the high fat part, is what is used for epilepsy, and it's mostly used for children. And when you look at the way they eat, you could go to Matthew's Friends or Charlie Foundation and look at the recipes, and it's all kinds of items. Like, it's not even meat focused at all. They just eat all kinds of stuff. So I don't really fit with them either. And a common thread in my life is feeling inferior, feeling less than, not fitting in, never being accepted in a group. And so I thought, even if I'm the only member of my group, I'm going to start my own group. I'm going to start this thing. And I tried to come up with an acronym and everything. So I did it, and I never expected that I would have a Facebook group. So I came up with the acronym like in April. I didn't even start the Facebook group until I think September. I never imagined that I would have a group. And now there's almost 200 people in there. And what's cool about it is I thought I was the only person that's going to the butcher and buying beef fat and eating like a big pile of raw beef fat, but there's other people doing that. That's how I discovered Emily Penton. She's going to be a guest on the show next month. And she put out a YouTube video from a couple years ago where she's eating just like me. I was literally just about in tears watching it because I couldn't believe there was someone out there doing that. And now if you go on the HFBO Facebook group, you'll see people going to their butchers and buying big bags of beef fat and post it on there. A lot of people are getting it for free too. So it's just so cool. But a large part of the reason I did that was because I want it to be an option for people out there. There are people that are vegan that are not going to eat meat, or vegetarians that are not going to eat meat. So you're not going to do the beef only part of it. But there's a lot of people coming over to my group from the Lion diet where it's just not really working out well for them and they want to up their fat. It's perfect for someone like that. It's perfect for someone who's okay eating meat. Maybe you have a more diverse diet, but you're suffering from mental health and you're not at your best. Now there's this new option out there that you could try this high fat beef only thing. I have people all over the world that I'm helping. They're in Australia and Germany and Canada. They're all over the place. And every single person that was suffering and has increased their fat has seen improvements from doing it. Every single one of them. For some, it's hard to do. Yeah. And now there's this option out there. There's this HFBO option out there for people to try. And it's just so cool that it was like, I was in deep ketosis and I was like, I woke up at like 4:30 in the morning and I'm like, ding, that's it. It's going to be HFBO. That's going to be my thing. And I went and made a logo. And now it's actually like become a thing that I never even expected that to happen.
I think that's so amazing. And I do feel better when I do eat more fat. I get it. So and I think I've heard the chatter that at some of the low carb conventions and, some of the get-togethers that they have, that they are talking about how much fat is important now. They are starting to get the message. So it's like you knew the message before they started talking about it. And so, but my question's always been like, well, how do I add more fat? How much more butter can I eat? I don't understand. How do I get more fat? And so with talking to you, I have started getting some beef, fat from my grocery store. And it's $2 for like 5 pounds or something. Yeah, so, I mean,
you're getting a better deal than I am. I'm paying $1.99 a pound at my local butcher. And then when at my grocery store, when prime rib goes on sale for the holidays, I get it for 99 cents a pound. So that's pretty good.
Oh, that is good.
You're getting it cheap. And they're really good to me. I've got a very good relationship with the butchers over there. And so they cut a lot of prime ribs for Christmas and for Easter. And they save me all their fat. And I literally will stock up. I get 40 to 50 pounds of fat at a time. And I vacuum seal it and I stock up my freezer, and that lasts me the whole year long.
That is so smart.
That's what I've couple years now. Yeah. And it's prime rib. I mean, it's the best fat you can get. I also like coming off a ribeye is going to be the same, but coming off a New York strip, the strip fat is really good. My local butcher, they're always on Thursdays and Fridays. They're cutting all their steaks for the weekend. So if I go in there first thing, they know me as the fat man. I'm like, fat man's here. I'm like, what are you cutting today? I just went in there yesterday and they were cutting strips, and usually they don't have very much. I don't know why they were cutting so much, but they gave me a little over 5 pounds, and it was primarily from strips and ribeyes. It's amazing fat. I posted it on the HFBO group so people could see what it looked like, and I was like in heaven. I rode my bike to drop Samantha off at school, and so I'm riding back from the butcher, and I've got this big giant 5-pound bag of beef fat riding down the street, and oh man, I was happier than a kid on Christmas.
That's funny. I saw the picture that you posted and I was like, oh my God, that Christmas came early.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I don't really even need it. Like I have plenty of fat downstairs in my freezer, but I still, it's like part of it is like a social connection. I like going to the butcher periodically and seeing them and keeping that bond going with them. But it's also still fun to be able to go into a store and buy something. And I've gone to the butcher over the years where I spoke about all the things that I'm not supposed to eat, because they make homemade bratwurst and kielbasa, and they make their own jerky and their roast beef. And like the Virginia ham, which is coated in honey, and they make all these things that they're all meat, so that would all be carnivore. But unfortunately, I can't be a regular carnivore. I can't eat those things because they bother me. I don't regulate. So I've I've always enjoyed going there and buying these things, but I can still go there once in a while, and I'm doing something really, really beneficial for myself. I am not hurting myself. I'm just buying a big bag of beef fat. It's great, and I can still get the experience of going to the store and seeing the people and the social aspect and all that.
Now, do you make tallow from some of it, or do you get the suet instead?
I do a little bit of both. I do get suet and make my own tallow, but that we're mostly using for cooking. And I'll take the beef fat trim, like the high quality stuff, like from the strips or the prime rib, like I was talking about, and I'll make tallow for lotion for us. We don't usually cook with it. I do make these treats for Samantha that we call meat cookies. I got this from Holly. Are you familiar with pemmican?
No, please tell me.
Okay, so pemmican goes back to the Indians. It's mostly fat. So I take like a bottom round or a top round, and I make pot roast. And the pot roast, it starts with my own tallow that I smoked. So I'm rendering beef fat on a smoker, and I take all that smoky tallow, and that's how I start the pot roast. So the pot roast kind of has a smoky flavor to it. And then I dehydrate the pot roast. It's already kind of dry when it comes out, and then I'm dehydrating it to the point where it's going to crumble, and you blast it in a food processor until it becomes like a meat dust. And then I put in a silicone mold, I put equal parts of meat dust and tallow, and then you throw it in the freezer. And when you pop them out, it makes what looks like a little cookie, and they're 80% fat. So that's right about where Samantha is at. I keep her between 80 and 85 on most days. So they're perfect. So she can have them anytime she wants. And it's just beef and salt. I'm trying to keep her as clean as possible as well, because she has a lot of skin issues. And so I make these meat cookies, and I go through a lot of tallow with that.
I would love to know that recipe. Like if you could send that to me in some way.
Sure. Yeah. It's super.
For the grandkids.
Do you know Holly?
I don't.
Her handle is @carnivorefriend on Twitter. If you're not following her, you should. You will be amazed by the things that she's doing with a full carnivore diet. She's making breads and sauces and all kinds of. She was lying for a while, and even when she was lying, that's how I discovered her, when she was still lying. That's why I wanted to have her on the show. She had never been on a podcast before. I was like, I cannot believe she's never been on to talk about what she's doing. You'll go on and you'll see her Twitter, and you'll see all the amazing things she was doing online, and now that she's doing on carnivore. She's like eating sandwiches and like ice cream dessert treats, and it's all carnivore somehow. She's amazing. That's where I got it from.
I'm going to look her up. I love the creativity that goes with it. I love Courtney Luna. She's super creative and just the cutest little thing. So I just love following her. And yeah, that's cool that she's never been on a podcast and she does all these things.
One of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to give people their first breaks, because I was on Twitter, and pretty quickly after being on Twitter, somebody picked me up. That was my first podcast appearance I did. He's no longer doing podcasts. That was Connor. Oh. And I was so grateful to him for allowing me to share my story, because it was like a dream come true, because I've been a consumer of podcasts for years and years and years. And to be able to appear on one, I just felt so grateful. So I wanted to give that opportunity to somebody else. And I found Tina on Twitter. I don't know if you're following her.
I don't think so.
Okay. I can't remember her handle offhand. She's huge. She's got a huge following. And then I found Holly. And when I messaged Holly, I assumed that she had been on podcasts before, but she wasn't. And so her first appearance was on my show. And then not long after that, she was on Dave Mack's, what is it called? No Carb Life, I think. Dave Mack, he's huge. So she was on Dave Mack, and I plan on having her back on. I'd like to have her back on now that she's not doing lion, that she's just doing carnivore, and just talk about all the cool stuff that she's doing. She posts her food every day, and it's so much variety.
Oh, I'm not that creative. I love the fact that I can just throw a steak in the pan or on the barbecue and I'm good. But I love and admire when people are creative, because I always think I'm going to do that. And so I do love to follow their recipes.
Yeah, I do too. And it's not for myself. It's more for Samantha, because I'm trying to make her ketogenic diet as varied as possible, because she seems to crave the variety. And so I pick these things up from Holly and use them for her. For me, I'm to the point now where, so I was like in the beginning when I first started eating all meat, I was all my meat was extremely well done. It was like leather. That's how I liked my meat. And over the years, it's gotten more rare and more rare. And then I was doing sous vide for a while. So when you sous vide, even though it's fully cooked, it comes out more rare. And I really had a craving for that. But now I'm to the point where I'm not cooking my food. So I have some days, all I have is a cutting board. Like when I went to the butcher yesterday, I just had the cutting board and the knife, and that's it. But a lot of times what I do is I'm prepping all my food ahead of time. So I'm cutting my meat and my fat up. I'm weighing it, putting it in bags and throwing it in the freezer. So most days, all I have is a Ziploc. And most of the time, I'm not even using a utensil. I just eat it with my hands real quick. It's like it takes me like 10 minutes to eat. And it's so easy. I don't even want to be bothered with the cooking or the cleaning or any of that stuff. It's like food has become such a small, minimal part of my life. And the smaller I can get that, the better it seems to be. And the less I can be attached to my old thinking of food as fun and food as entertainment and something that we do socially.
One day I hope to be there. I am not there yet to eat raw. But, I mean, if you're in a pinch, at least you know it's an option.
And like I said, it's been 5.5 years and I slowly gravitated towards it. I was sous videing my fat for a long time. And I did it that way because it would render the least. I would get the least amount of tallow out of it. It would still be fully cooked. I was still worried about bacteria and parasites like we're taught. And eventually I was just pan searing it, just quickly pan searing it. And then there'd be times where I'm like really hungry and I'm like, I just can't wait. So I have a couple pieces and I noticed that I really enjoyed it without cooking it at all. So I just kind of slowly did that. So it'd be like every couple of meals, I'd have some raw pieces. And then I started doing it with like, I'm kind of curious, like, well, what is raw meat like? And I have a couple pieces of that. And I noticed that I just really liked it. It made me feel good doing it. It's the same way that I ended up becoming a barefoot walker. It's because when I do it, I feel happy. And so if I'm not doing my diet and all these other metabolic strategies, my default state is going to be angry and irritable. But when I do things like I'm having a couple pieces of raw meat or I'm taking a walk outside barefoot, I'm now happy and calm. And to me, that's the complete opposite of angry and irritable. And so such a simple thing, like I can walk around barefoot outside and my neighbors probably think I'm some whack job. People driving by probably think I'm homeless, especially this time of year now. It's 35 degrees out and I'm bundled. I have a sweatshirt and a vest on and everything, but I'm walking around barefoot on cold pavement. But I do it because it makes me happy and calm. And I had been eating my beef fat raw for much longer than like months before I went fully raw with my meat because I just enjoyed it so much. I was still pan searing my meat and grilling my steaks every once in a while, even though they were mostly rare on the inside. And I just slowly progressed that way, but it was never with an end goal of, yeah, I'm going to be raw someday. It was just like, well, I like this, so I'm just going to keep doing it. And it would be like I'd have a fully raw meal and then I cook my meat for a couple of days and I notice, I burped a little bit. I had a little bit of gas. I'm like, that's kind of weird. Is it because I cooked my meat? That seems kind of silly just because so let me go raw for a couple of days. Let me go raw for 2 weeks and then cook a steak. And then I cook a steak. It's like, I just realized that the last 2 weeks that I ate raw, I never even felt my food. I went from hungry to no longer hungry. I don't even feel, and then I ate this cooked steak. It's like, I felt it going down and like, I kind of feel it in my stomach now. It's like I found this new level of perfection. Like, I'm just not going to cook my food anymore. It's just not as good. It's not as optimal. That's interesting, right?
That is so interesting. And then I have a question. Do you also salt it or do you just eat it plain and then get your salt different ways?
All right. So I have a love-hate relationship with salt. It's a long story. I've dealt with severe cramping over the years and I will salt my food sometimes. I actually prefer it not salted because one of the things I notice is if I put salt on it, it makes it a little bit too palatable and then I may end up eating more than I should. So part of what I'm trying to do is not eat too much food because that can also blunt my ketones. I'm trying to stay in a pretty deep level of ketosis on most days. There are days when I go off that as long as I do it for a day or two. But so there are times that, like, let's say I am portioning out my food and I'm eating as I'm portioning and I'm also salting. I'm going to end up eating a lot more than I should because of the salt. I've gotten to the point where I'm full. I don't need more food, but because of the salt, I'm just going to keep eating it. So I kind of go off and on with that. Lately, the past couple of weeks, what I've been doing is, like I said, where I portion it all out into bags, and that just helps me control myself a little bit better. I know the weights. I know exactly how much I'm having. So when it's like that, I'll just throw some salt on it real quick because that's really all I'm eating for the day. But I go back and forth with it. Sometimes I just like I'll have a little bit of salt, and maybe I've had too much. I'm drinking my salt in water, so maybe I've had too much salt that day, and it's not that appetizing. There's other times where it's like the salt is like really, really delicious, and I'll just add more. It kind of changes from day to day.
So it's what you feel like your taste buds want that day.
Exactly. And that's the same way that I regulate my liver intake. So I've been eating liver since, I don't know, probably 5 years. Like I changed my diet. I went low carb within 6 months. I was eating meat only. And I think I started eating liver right away. And I used to eat it every day. At the time, it was people like Paul Saladino, he was actually a carnivore back then. He was actually the carnivore MD. Now he's carnivore plus honey and all that other stuff. So yeah, so it's the same thing with liver. So I'll notice like there's a cold in the house. Samantha's home today. She probably has strep. So I'm probably going to be feeling some effects from that. I'll probably feel tired. I know in the next day or two, I'll probably be craving liver. I'll just think about it. I have it frozen. I'll have a couple pieces. And what'll normally happen is it'll taste very sweet. It's got a lot of flavor. Now, compared to a raw piece of meat, raw liver has a lot of flavor. It'll taste really good, really sweet, really satisfying. I don't have large quantities because I don't really feel it's appropriate because we wouldn't be getting that out in nature in the wild. I'll have maybe 2 ounces. And then the next day, if I'm still thinking about it, I'll have it again. And what'll normally happen is maybe the first couple of bites taste sweet, and then it'll start tasting metallic. And as soon as I get that, like, I don't know, it just kind of tastes like metallic, I know I've had enough. And I can trust my radar and my taste senses to regulate that for me.
So when you added liver, I have tried to add some organ meat, even in the form of pluck. Are you familiar with pluck? He grounds up organ meat, and it's like a seasoning. He has some flavors. I have chosen to get the one that doesn't have flavor in it. It's an unflavored version. Even that gives me a stomach ache. So organ meat tends to be, I guess, maybe very rich for my internal organs. And I do understand, I do understand that you're supposed to sort of work up to it. Like you can't just eat liver because it's very rich. And maybe that's the problem I'm having. But I wonder if I need it. I wonder, how do you know if you need it? And like, how do you integrate it into your life? The thought of liver makes me want to die. But I know it's good for you.
If the thought of it makes you die, that may be a sign that you don't need it. I just want to say, I love that you're asking me questions like, who's doing the interview here? Is it you interviewing me? No, this is great. I love this.
I'm learning.
I vividly remember the first time that I had liver, because I don't think I ever had it in my life. I know my parents growing up, my dad would say that his mom always made him liver and onions and he hated it. I don't think I ever had it in my life. And I went to the butcher and got it. I was at work. I was still commuting to the offices before COVID. And yeah, I almost threw up. I didn't know what to do with it. And it's got, compared to meat, it's got a weird texture. It's kind of soft and I don't want to say slimy, but it's just different than meat. I also noticed that it doesn't freeze solid like meat will. So you can take it out of the freezer frozen and you can cut it with a knife because it's still pretty soft. It's the same thing with fat. Fat won't freeze completely solid like meat will. But that first time I had it, I had a couple pieces and I was still fully cooking my food. So I fully cooked it and it was hard to chew. And I remember I was like 10 feet from the garbage can. And I walked over and I dry heaved a couple times. I thought I was going to throw it all up. And my stomach was like really angry at me. So I waited a couple days and I had less. I saw people online saying, don't cook it as much because it's easier to eat. So I did that. But even like the first couple of times I had it, it did upset my stomach a little bit. But I was so into Saladino at the time and his messaging. Now, I didn't know that he was going to have a book coming out and he was going to have his own supplement company and he was going to have his own meat company and he was going to end up, where is he now? Costa Rica or something?
Costa Rica.
Like, he was on a fast track to becoming a big, huge celebrity in this field and making money and I think that's why he was pushing that message, but like, he just wouldn't shut up about the liver. And I trusted him and I believed him. So I was forcing myself to do that. And I can't really say that. It's hard for me to say from so long ago if I felt any benefits from it. I was already eating meat only. I was already doing beef fat, and I was adding in the liver because I thought it was good for me and I enjoyed it and it wasn't bothering me. So there's like my two criteria. I enjoyed it and it didn't bother me. But then over time, I lost my taste for it. It started tasting very metallic-y and I didn't enjoy it. So, okay, there's one of my criteria. If I'm not enjoying it, I'm not going to eat it. And now I probably have it like maybe once every 2 weeks. It's probably usually just one day every 2 weeks or so, sometimes a little bit more often, sometimes a little less often. It's just whenever if I'm thinking about it. Sometimes it happens a day or two after a heavier workout, like if I run more sprints than usual, or maybe just a heavy yard work day where it's consistent with being more sore. If my muscles are more sore, I notice that I'm craving it, and then I'll have a little bit, and then I'm good, and then I don't think about it anymore.
And I kind of wonder, you said something there, if you don't like the way it tastes, you don't eat it. I wonder if that, as an animal out in the wild, if you will, if they don't like the way it tastes, they're not going to eat it, right? If they don't like the way they feel after they've eaten something, it gives them they're not eating it. And so I think maybe we should be that way. If we don't like the way it tastes, if we don't like the way it smells, if we don't like the way it makes us feel, why are we eating it?
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Yeah. Animals are a lot smarter than we are.
And that's
And the reason I said that it's probably not appropriate for us to eat a lot of liver, because if we're out in the wild and we're taking out an animal, the liver is only a small portion of that. And if we're sharing it with a pack, we might only get like a bite or something, We're not going to be eating a ton of it. I always try to imagine what our ancestors did when we were out in the wild and we were hunting and what would be most appropriate. And I try to emulate that. And that's how I've gotten to where I love to fast. I'll fast on a Sunday. I'll wake up Monday morning. I'm like 36 hours fasted. I'll go run my sprints. And as soon as I'm done with my sprints, I go and eat. Like I'm still breathing heavy and I'm going to eat. And it's one of those things that makes me feel really good. It makes me feel happy and calm. And I just wonder if our ancestors would go a couple days without being able to get food. We would chase down our prey and we would kill it and eat it right on the spot. And maybe that's what I'm emulating. And that's why it feels so good.
It very well could be. And I don't necessarily fast on purpose, but I do fast. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I don't eat until maybe 2 that day if I'm busy. I do notice that if I'm not mentally busy or have something going on, I think about food. I think that's a normal human response. I think about it a little more often.
Yeah, I do fasting. It's for my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And my analogy is I liken it to a car wash. And so if my brain is like the car, my car, I don't have it in a garage. It's sitting outside and it's getting rained on and bird poop and baked in the sun. And the same thing is happening to my brain. And so, if you could take your car to the car wash once a week, it's going to look pretty good. It's going to look brand new. It's going to be nice and shiny. So I like to do the same thing for my brain. I like to fast. I usually once a week. Sometimes I go weeks at a time without it. For a while in September and October, I was with some friends in a group on Discord, and we were doing Mondays and Thursdays. I like it. Again, it helps me feel happy and calm, and so that's why I do it. And it's harmless. It's free. It's easy, and it's harmless.
I have to say that that's the one thing that I wish that everybody understood about this journey, however you want to take it, this way of eating, however you want to implement it into your life, is it's free. There's no gimmicks. There's no food to buy. There's no app to purchase. There's no, there's just no gimmicks. And it ends up being so much cheaper at the grocery store than it does when you stock up on cereal and popcorn and chips and dip and blah, blah, blah. And then you're eating that all day long, right? It's incredibly freeing to not be tied to food.
And one of the things I would add for the cost is if you're constantly buying produce and it goes bad and you're throwing it out, how much is going in the garbage? And then if you're doing a diet like me, where I'm getting 90% of my calories from fat on most days, and I'm paying $1 or $2 a pound for my fat, My diet is very, very affordable, and it's absolutely the best one I can do, and it's the cheapest one I could do too. So for someone like me who's frugal and has always loves saving money, that's a win-win right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is
So I'm
Samantha
noticing,
joining us?
because she's home from school today, and she came in, but she just left. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I seem distracted, but she
Oh.
was. I'm at a stand-up desk, and she was coming in. She was crawling like under my feet.
Oh.
All right, we've got Samantha with us. Hey, Samantha. She's home from school today. She most likely has a strep. Try not to breathe on me, okay?
Hi, Miss Samantha.
Oh, she's not gonna be able to hear you because of here. I'm gonna give her the headphones so you can talk to her, okay? Here. So now I can't hear you guys.
Well, hello, Miss Samantha. It is a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too.
I'm sorry that you're not feeling so super good today.
It's okay.
Yeah. You're tough, though. I've heard that you're very tough.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you got a little sore throat?
And a bubble on my tongue.
Oh, that's just the worst, isn't it?
It's the second bubble, like October. In October, I had one, and now I have one in November. A bubble.
Well, darn it. Are you going to have some nice broth that'll soothe your throat? At least you didn't have to go to school today. You get to cozy up in bed and watch some fun things on TV. Do you miss school?
A little bit. Not really.
No.
I only miss my friends and my besties. That's the only part I miss.
I don't blame you. What's your favorite subject?
I like art class.
And
And
Spanish.
Spanish.
Espanol.
Spanish. That's perfect. Does anyone in your family speak Spanish?
I do have someone that speaks Spanish to my family.
So when you learn some of your words, you have someone to practice with.
Yeah.
Good. That's awesome. I love that you love art. My granddaughter, who will be 7, close to your age, right? She also loves art, and she's very talented.
I'm 8 years old.
So you guys are a year apart.
All right, say goodbye. We're gonna get back to the show, okay?
Bye-bye.
Bye. It was fun to meet you. Please come back again and let's chat.
Okay.
Okay. You feel better, sweetie.
She said to feel better.
I'll feel better.
All right, we had a guest appearance from little celebrity Samantha.
I'm honored that we got to meet.
That's the first time she's ever made an appearance on the show because I'm typically recording during the day when she's in school.
Right.
She's
Well,
off
that was fun. She has a bubble on her tongue.
school. Yeah, she just showed it to me.
Oh, man, that sucks.
She's all excited because she asked about eating, and I offered her some meat cookies, and she's doing a meat cookie dance in there.
They're so easy.
Yeah. So one of the things I believe in is fasting for healing, and I try to get her to practice some fasting with me. She's never fasted for a full day. I don't know how safe that is for a kid, but on a Sunday when I'm fasting all day, she'll fast most of the day with me. And it's been cool now because it's football season and we're watching football, even though I'm a New York Giant fan, so I'm in misery as they stink so terribly. But I'll throw the game on, and if it's a 1 o'clock game, it's not over until 4. So she's going all the way until 4 o'clock. She's fine. She's fine. And then she eats one meal a day, so she knows what OMAD is. She'd be like, "Can I have this for my OMAD tomorrow? Can I have that for my OMAD?" So one of the things I told her with her not feeling well is, she stopped eating at like 5 p.m. last night. I said, so if you're going to stay home from school tomorrow, you're going to fast for a couple hours, let your body heal up, because I strongly believe in that. I try to explain to her that your body has so much energy and it's using its energy right now. It's fighting a war against the germs in your body. And as soon as you eat, well, now your body has to divert energy to the digestion and processing the food, and it can't fight quite as hard, and I have to find a way to motivate her. She has this event at school next Friday that parents get to go to, where they do all these dances, and she does not want to miss the hoedowns. I'm like, well, if you don't want to miss it, we're just going to fast for a couple of hours. And so she came in asking for some food. So there you go. I gave her some meat cookies.
That should do it.
And when we're done, I'm gonna make her chaffles. She loves chaffles.
Oh, yes. Who doesn't? My grandkids love those too.
Yeah, I absolutely love chaffles. And
me too.
Yeah, earlier on in my journey, when I was still consuming cheese, I was eating a lot of chaffles, but I don't regulate cheese very well. It gives me skin issues. It gives me irritability. I know it's inflaming me because I'll wake up and feel depressed if I eat too much cheese. And I've tried raw cheeses. I've tried all different hard cheeses. I've tried them all. and they just don't work. It's too bad because I remember having chaffle bacon cheeseburgers using, and I would cook the bacon into the chaffle, and I would use jalapeno jack cheese, and that stuff was great. I love that stuff.
Man, it's so good. You know, my family owns a cheese factory in Northern California, so giving up cheese it has not been easy.
Cheese is one of those things that has a very strong grip on me. Not just cheese, any dairy. It'll have a very strong grip on me, and I will find myself eating cheese when I am not even hungry.
Oh,
so, yeah, not
absolutely.
even. I always eat some cheese. So if any kind of item like that, I have to completely cut out. Like, so I have this gauge for myself. Like, I kind of feel like I'm in the mood for cheese today. I've had cravings at times for, like I said, like a rotisserie chicken. Like, that's kind of weird. Why am I thinking about chicken? So am I really hungry? Would I eat a raw pile of beef fat right now? And if the answer is no, well, then I'm not really hungry. But yeah, I'd go to the grocery store and get a rotisserie chicken and eat the whole entire thing. Or I could eat some cheese, or then, you want to go down the line, like potato chips or ice cream. I could eat all that stuff right now, but I am not legitimately hungry. That's what cheese does to me. And those cravings, I talk about the demon inside me, the substance abuse I've dealt with my whole life. And it's this demon inside me. And anything that creates those cravings is keeping him awake and alive and giving him energy. And it's a detriment. It's always going to be a detriment. Even if I don't cave and I don't have those items, I don't want to be thinking about them. I don't want this demon to be awake. And that's another big reason that I do this high fat approach. Because when I'm at the 90-10 most days, the demon is asleep. I don't even know he's there. He doesn't even exist. He doesn't. And when I get to that turbo boost, he is completely gone, and there are no signs of him as long as I'm in that turbo boost mode.
And speaking of the demon, it is funny how, like you said, it goes dormant, or however you want to say, but I don't think about having a cocktail all the time anymore. I don't think about how nice it would be to have a cocktail and a cigarette, because boy, did I love a cocktail and a cigarette back in the day. That's been years, but you still thought about those things. And I don't think about that stuff. I think about, okay, how many times am I going to go to yoga this week? I think about other things, and I don't think I want to have a cocktail when we get together with friends, because I really want to go hike the next day, and I want to feel the best. Because the second, I have a cocktail with some friends, the next day I want to make bad choices, right? And it just isn't, it kind of just spins you out and takes you down a road I don't really want to go down. It's not to say that I'm perfect. a couple times a year, I'll have cocktails with my sister. I'll, maybe a friend comes over and we'll have a cocktail, but I certainly try not to overdo anymore, because it just does not make me feel good the next day.
I'm so happy for you that you've been able to discover that. And it's like if you have a built-in radar and you have a knob on it, you've been able to turn up your radar so it's more sensitive. That's what I feel like I've done over the years, that my radar has gotten super duper sensitive to where now I'm detecting that cooked meat is really not optimal for me. So my radar is really dialed in, but I'm happy for you that you're able to find that.
Yeah, it's something that I never thought. I mean, I just would be like, sure, let's have cocktails. It's fine. And then, the next day you want to eat a whole pizza. It's like, that's not a very good cycle to be on, right?
I've been there, done that.
I mean, I'm not going to say it wasn't fun, but later on in life, it doesn't feel so great.
Of course. Yeah, we wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun. Let's talk about some other things in your lifestyle besides diet. I want to know what your current lifestyle looks like and how you integrate activities like yoga, Pilates, and swimming.
I try to sort of wake up in the morning. Well, I don't try to sort of. I wake up in the morning, and I try to roll right into my shoes. I do not go barefoot yet, but I roll into my shoes, and I can't wait to take my dogs for a walk. I wake up and I'm just ready to go. I sing a song like It's a Beautiful Morning or something. It's really a little bit cuckoo, but I just am so excited to wake up in the morning. It's the weirdest thing. And I take my dogs for a walk. We walk every single day. There are times that we don't get to it, but almost every single day I start my day with a 2-mile walk with my herd. And then I try to go to yoga 4 days a week. And then I try to do Pilates 2 to 3 times a week. And then I just started integrating swimming into my exercise regimen, if you will. And I am loving it. It's like, I was like, I've never been a swimmer. I've never done anything like that. I've swam before, of course. I've always been active. In my 20s and 30s, I was always active. I ran a marathon when I was 30. I did little mini tries into my 30s, which included some swimming, but it wasn't very far. And some biking. I don't think I really like biking that much, but it was part of the deal, biking, running, and swimming. And so I've always been very active. So to feel the weight come on as my life, as I got older, was like, what's going on here? And so I'm loving that I feel like moving again, right? I don't have to move. I want to move. And there is such a big difference in dragging my large bottom to yoga. Now I skip in there and I can't wait to start class. Like, come on, let's do this. I'm enjoying exercise. I'm always looking for something new because it's like, well, how do you do that? I want to do that. I want to, I have bigger goals again. I would love to do like rim to rim in Arizona. I really want to do that. There's just so many things that now in my brain, I'm like, I can't wait to do that. I hope I get a chance. I would like to start implementing more weightlifting into my life because I want to see more muscle. I think that's important for us old gals. And I just feel like I'm living life again. I'm not sitting on my couch wishing that I could live life, wanting to have the energy to do it. I have the energy, and it's a clean energy. I don't know how to explain it, but you're just moving along. I don't have to think, oh my God, okay, I'm going to get up. You know how you play those things in your head. I've got to put on my shoes. I've got to do the next thing. I just get up, put on my shoes, and it's a no-brainer. And it feels amazing. And I also feel like we have that old saying, a body in motion stays in motion, right? But there's nothing, it's the truth. You've got to move. It's the fountain of youth. And if we just sit and look through a window, we're just watching our life, sort of pass us by. And, I just feel like 56 is not that old. I can tell you that I don't feel that old anymore. So you shouldn't have to feel old at 56. So I feel like I'm blessed. I'm given this gift and I'm not going to waste it.
That's amazing. And this is all just from changing your diet, which you initially did to lose weight. And all the things that you just described are all the mental benefits that come along with it. And I agree with you about, you're not very old. You could very well be middle-aged. And we've learned to accept that we age poorly as we get older. But I don't believe that to be the case unless you're living a standard American lifestyle. We talk about the standard American diet. The acronym would be SAD or SAD, which is appropriate because it is pretty sad the way the American diet is. But I talk about the standard American lifestyle, which would be SAL. And anybody who's living the standard American lifestyle I call them Sallies. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it. And you see as people age, they no longer exercise. They're not eating enough protein. They're eating too high carbs. And I'm big into the barefoot thing and walking in flat shoes. And you see our older people and women are still walking in heels and the men are walking in, typical running shoes, like the New Balance with a big heel on them, and they're all hunched over. And I only think that you age that way if you're living that lifestyle. I don't think our bodies are meant to age that way at all. And I'm hoping that I'm not going to go down that road and you won't either. If you're looking to try new things, you should maybe think about sprinting. I don't know if you're into that.
I think that is something that is swirling around, and I have been thinking about it. I just need to figure out where to do it because I don't really want to sprint on the road, but I don't know. I've been thinking about doing that.
I'll help you with it.
It can't hurt. Yeah, let's talk about that. That'd be fun.
Are you familiar with Dr. Sean O'Mara?
I am. And I think he's brilliant.
Yeah, he is. He's where I got the sprinting from, and sprinting is my main exercise. I do a whole lot of other stuff. I mess around with dumbbells and kettlebells and medicine balls and stuff like that, and pull-ups, but my main exertion has been my sprints, and that's been, it's like a year and a half now that I've been doing that, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And one of the things I like about it is that I can feel soreness in parts of my body that are not related to just my legs. I'll get sore in my glutes and my hamstring, which is natural, but I get it in my triceps and my shoulders, and it's in areas that I've never gotten before from all the bench pressing and military pressing I've done. And you'll be surprised. You could put on some muscle doing sprinting. And the reason why is something I've talked about earlier, is that I think it's appropriate for our bodies. And if you think about our ancestors, when we were living in caves or whatever, we didn't have squat racks and barbells and benches, and we didn't do that stuff. What do? Well, we ran after our prey, or we ran from a threat, from a predator that was trying to come after us. We didn't do long, slow distance running. If we wanted to get from one place to another to get more prey or to get water, we would walk because we're conserving our energy. And then if there was a threat, we would run like hell as fast as we could. Or if we're going after prey, we would run like hell as fast as we could. I just think it's very appropriate for our bodies. And I'm someone that has a lower back issue. I think it's from all the years of heavy deadlifting. And I noticed the more I sprint, the better my back feels, the better my whole body feels. So you should think about it. Something we could talk about off air.
Yeah, I would love to learn more about that. I'm always looking for something to throw in there. I feel that way about swimming. I was like, oh, I didn't know that muscle was there. It's pretty good. And it's low impact on my back as well. Like, I've always had a lower back issue, sciatic nerve issues, things like that. And swimming I don't know, I've only been doing it like a month and a half, but it's so meditative. There's no distractions. You're breathing the whole time. You're floating in water. When you look up, the other morning I went real early at 6 a.m. and I looked up and the sun was rising and birds were flying over. And I was like, God, if you don't believe in God or someone who created this, come and look at this. It was just absolutely, it sort of stopped me in my tracks, and it just made me feel like this is what life is. Look at this beauty all around you. And that's another thing that I feel like I would like to mention is when I'm out in walks, doing walks, when I'm swimming, when I'm outside, it's kind of a surreal, if you will. I am more present. I'm like, look at how beautiful the trees are. Wow, today they are, turning colors. Or look at that little squirrel. What is his life like? Just really immersed in nature, how blue the sky is, the clouds, the sun. It's just, I don't know. It's like my eyes are open. And I feel thankful for every breath that I get to take now. I don't know what that's from, maybe a little bit of age, but I feel myself being and giving more thanks to movement and my body and my health.
What you're describing is gratitude. And I can relate to that because I could do a regular keto diet and be at the 8 that I spoke about. And I'm not going to be depressed. I'm not going to want to unalive myself. I may still have irritability and anger. But when I do the high fat beef only and I get that turbo boost, I get a calm that comes along with it. But I have noticed a distinct gratitude. And it's for all those simple, banal things in life, just like for the sun or for the body movement, things like that. But gratitude for my place in this community, for the acceptance that I've gotten from everybody. We have a Facebook Messenger group. There's a couple of us that are sharing our low carb, our food that we're tracking. I'm so grateful for those people, and my little Discord group that I'm fasting with, that we're doing a 75-day challenge. But I notice when I fall off from the turbo boost, that I don't have that same, I still appreciate it, but I don't have that same depth of gratitude. And as soon as I get back on the turbo boost, it's like, man, I really am just so grateful for all these things I have in life.
And who would have thunk, just by eating real one ingredient food, that life could feel so, awake.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I have two questions that are posed to your younger self. And the first one is related to diet and mental or physical health. And the second one is similar, but not necessarily related to diet or mental health. So the first one, like I said, is related to diet and mental or physical health. And it's, what is a piece of advice you'd give to your younger self before you discovered this diet? Something along the lines of how to get through the tough times.
I would say to my younger self that aging does not have to be miserable. I wish that we could all know that this is a gift. Growing old is a gift, and we should treat it as such. Please don't wait until you get sick, younger Natalie, before you want to get better. It's the key to a better life. You're giving your body armor and your mind armor to defend itself for what challenges that are going to come along. I would tell myself that you don't have to have a vice. You don't have to, drink and smoke and to make friends that way. It sort of seems like probably us younger generations, we want to go out to the bars and we want to hang out with friends, and drinking and whatever else comes along with that is part of the social aspect of it all. And I wish I could tell myself that that's not the key to life. In fact, it only leads to bad decisions, and maybe you could find something else to do.
That was an excellent answer. And part of the reason I like these questions so much is because you're posing it to your younger self. But what you just said is, that's just a great answer for anybody. I don't care if you're 75 years old or you're 15 years old. That was just an excellent answer. Very good piece of advice. All right. So the second question is similar, but not related to diet or mental and physical health. It's just more of a life lesson. If you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would like to tell my younger self that, maybe making thoughtful decisions, not just the ones that feel good. Think through the decisions that you're going to make. It's okay that everyone doesn't like you. You don't have to try to fit in with everybody. Get rid of those people that aren't there for your best interest. Trust your instincts. There's no need to feel insecure around others. We are all going to end up where we're supposed to be. It's just, what road do you want to take to get there? Do you want to take the long road, or do you want to take the one that feels really good to get there?
Another excellent answer. Thank you so much for that, Natalie.
Thank you.
And this brings us to my signature question. So this is a question that encourages you to share a broader, more philosophical insight or life lesson that ties into your experience with the ketogenic lifestyle and provides something meaningful and potentially new even after our in-depth interview. This is what I call my fat-fueled philosophy question. So what's one powerful piece of fat-fueled philosophy, a life lesson or mantra that you've embraced on your ketogenic journey and that you think could inspire our listeners?
My mantra since I have started this journey is, health is the goal, weight loss is the bonus. It is not the setback, it's the comeback. So don't be too hard on yourself. Just keep on task and think about your health, and you're going to feel the best you've ever felt.
That was simply amazing. It's not the setback, it's the comeback. I'm going to try giving you a round of applause. I don't know if it's going to work on this Google Meet. Let me know if you can hear it.
Wait. You hear it? Oh no, I got a deep voice on here that I gotta get rid of. Oh, geez.
That one. All right. I don't know how I did that. I'm all discombobulated with this new software. I screwed up my mixer somehow. Here's the applause.
I can't hear it.
You don't hear it? See, I don't know if it's going to come out on the recording or not. In my other software, I know it would. It doesn't matter.
It's okay. I feel the gratitude from you and the audience. I know there's a standing ovation out there. Just kidding.
All right. We got one thing left to do. And you know what it is? I'm going to get my get up on, because I have my tenets in life. And I talk about the diet, the HFBO, and meditation and sunshine and body movement and all these things. And one of my tenets is to have fun and enjoy life, because we don't have to be so serious all the time. We just spent like almost 2 hours here being very serious. So I like to take us out with a laugh.
Oh my gosh, so cute.
So here's my get up. All right. I have my tagline for the show, and it's fix yourself with fat. And this is like my rapper persona. Fix yourself with fat. So what I'm doing is have all my guests say the tagline, and then I'm going to put a compilation together. I'd like you to do that in your own unique way. Is that something you can do for us today, Natalie?
I think so.
All right, let's go
I'm
for it.
going to do it in a way that I would talk to someone. So it's not very exciting, but I'm going to say, guys, fix yourself with fat. It's so easy.
That was great. I love it. Thank you so much. Let me just take some of this off.
Oh my God, that looks so cute.
I always end up leaving the gold chains on too, and I don't realize it until I'm doing the editing. I'm like, oh man, I still got my chains on. That's funny. That was great. I mean, I could go for hours and just keep talking and talking with you.
It's so much fun to talk to someone who's in the community, who understands. Because I will say, hi, Samantha. I will say that, like, talking to somebody who just eats, to stay thin, whether it's their oatmeal, their bananas, whatever they choose, they don't get it. And so when you talk to someone like outside of this who hasn't experienced the euphoria, the changes in life, they just look at you like you have three heads. And so when you talk to someone like yourself, and I get to talk to other people about it, I feel so normal. It's like, okay, what I am experiencing is what everyone else is experiencing too. I'm not some wacko creating this in my own head. It's happening. So it gives me confirmation, and and I really, honest to God, I feel like I have found my tribe. And that is, like you said, it's really important in our lives to feel accepted, even if it is just for, chatting purposes about the way you feel. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate this podcast. I never in a million years thought I'd be on a podcast. And so this is so fun for me.
Excellent. I'm so glad you came on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And go take care of your girl.